an area native business Park Home, and a testimony. All that and more coming up now on Joy in the City True Stories. Joy in the City is a program highlighting people and organizations having an impact in our city. All too often, we hear about the problems and the dysfunction in our culture, but we are coming with a different approach as we take a look at the good things going on right here in our community. I'm Bethany Marshall, and you're about to see what God is doing in our city. We want to thank our program sponsors, Park Home, for the donation of furniture used in our studio, Made by Vogel for their contribution of many props in our studio, and our platinum sponsor, Harry's Construction, for their ongoing support of Joy in the City. Once a month, we're highlighting a native business in our community who still exists today. This month, we're talking with Park Home, a family-owned store based in Central PA since 1940. This local entity is well known in our community, and their name is mentioned on each broadcast for their donation of furniture used here in our studio. Our correspondent, Teresa Miller, discusses the store's longevity with the leadership of Park Home.
So thank you guys for being here today and allowing us to talk about the longevity of your business in the community. And John, just give us a little bit of the backstory of how Park Furniture came about.
Well, Luther Park was the original owner of Park Furniture. He started a business in 1940. He actually had a moving and storage business that when he'd move people down south, he'd pick up new furniture and bring it up to Altoona to sell. And he had business from 1940 to 1945. Then he sold it to his sister. And Luther went to Arizona to build mobile homes for the guy coming back from the service. So his sister took over the business with her husband in 1945, and then they had it till 1972, and they sold it to a nephew whose mother was a Park. That was 1972. Then in 1979, he decided to get out of the business, and I took over the business in 1979, in January 79, and have owned it ever since.
So Park has nothing to do with your family or your family's last name.
No, not at all.
You just kept that.
Yeah, I just kept the name because it was a well-known business in Altoona and very reputable, and there was really no sense in changing the name.
Very smart, very smart, good. So how did you go from, Travis, how did you go from storefront in Juniata out to your huge, beautiful space out in Duncansville?
It was a pretty long journey, but we actually ended up we had 4 stores at one time, one of which was electronics, and we always wanted to combine everything under one roof. So we ended up closing all the stores and just building one big store, which that's where we're at now.
So you basically just brought it all under one roof.
Yeah, and it's actually a lot easier to manage that way. And we pull from all those same places we had the stores anyway. So, and now we can have everything on display just under one roof, and it's working out real well. Yeah.
And Matt, are you the techie of the family? How did the electronics end come in?
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, Travis and I both were at one time until he, sort of got full time into the furniture business. But when we got out of college, we started Park Audio, which was mainly car stereos and remote car starters, to begin with, and that evolved into home theater and TV sales and things like that, and eventually evolved into home security. And like Travis said, it's been a long process along the way, but eventually we got out of the remote or the car stereo business. We're now out of the home theater business, and we're strictly doing Park Security, strictly does security systems, fire systems, access control cameras for commercial and residential. So we now, after all the changes and things over the years, we now have Park Home, where we sell furniture, mattress, and appliance, and we have Park Security, where we do our security systems and things like that. So,
and in that, you guys are constantly evolving with that. I talked to you earlier, and I remember years ago calling and wanting to get an automatic car starter for my car, and that's not even on the table anymore.
We don't do it. Some places do, but it's few and far between anymore, because a lot of the cars now, these days come with them installed from the factory. So, I remember geez, we'd sell hundreds of those things, especially around the holidays. As soon as it got cold out, we'd start getting calls. But that slowly died down over the years as the cars that people were buying had the remote car starters already installed.
So that went away, and then you're constantly, you think, okay, we can't do car starters, so now what is the up and coming thing?
Well, luckily when we were younger, we were involved in, we had so many different businesses, that we kind of had, we never wanted to have all our eggs in one basket. So we were always, doing different things, and we're entrepreneurs. We're always looking for new opportunities and things like that. So, but over the years, we've kind of, some things have fallen off, and other things it's just been a conscious decision of, hey, we want to focus more on, certain things. So I feel like we're in a really good spot now because we've got, we're more focused. We know what we want to do, and so it's been good.
Furniture, mattress, and appliance has always been constant, though.
Right.
Well, that was what I was going to say. Like, everybody's always replacing furniture,
Yeah.
so that kind of stays the same.
And we've
Yeah.
been selling that since 1940. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
But I
Park
mean,
has.
it does change a lot over time, but people still need a mattress, appliance, or furniture.
What was it like growing up in a family business? Was this what you dreamt for yourselves, or?
No, the last thing I always said I was never going to do this, and here I am. But it's been good. I mean, I'm glad. We're happy we did it.
Yeah.
When they were growing up, they always told their mother, "We think we're going to work like him."
I know, because having your own business is a lot of work.
Right.
I've learned that in interviewing over the past several
Yeah.
weeks that it is endless.
It's a 24/7
Yes.
Like I
job.
said, for 42 years, I worked at least 65 hours a week, minimum. I mean, I was just a minimum of 65 hours a week for 42 years.
And are you still doing that?
Not quite as much.
You've passed that on to these guys, right?
We finally got them to take off Fridays
Yeah.
under protest.
Yeah. You guys are keeping him young, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we were doing this studio, kind of on a low budget, really, and I contacted Travis, actually, and asked him if he would be willing to kind of barter with us and let us pick out a few items of furniture for our studio and get us started, and we would give you guys some advertising in return. And it was the smoothest thing I have ever done. Like, I was actually nervous to ask him. I felt bad. And he treated us so great when we went in that store. It was like, you just tell me what you want. He put no limits on us, and we're grateful for that. Very grateful and very pleased. And our studio is beautiful, and it's because of you guys helping with that. But what are some other ways that you guys have given back to the community that has impacted, the city of Altoona in some way?
I mean, we do believe in, giving back. That's one thing, that our dad has always done and that we've kind of carried on too. So, for years we've sponsored a lot of youth baseball in the league. Park Furniture and the Federation League has been there since
Like 1972.
1972. There's been a lot of kids in this area that have played, for Park Furniture. We also sponsor several Little League teams. We sponsor a Little League team in Hollidaysburg and a couple in Altoona. Just recently this year we did our 12 Days of Christmas. It was kind of the first, what we hope is the first annual 12 Days of Christmas, where we chose 12 different nonprofits in the area, and every day presented a check to the nonprofits. We also believe in volunteering our time. I mean, I serve on the board of directors for the Chamber and the Pennsylvania Burglar and Fire Alarm Association, and several of our employees are on committees at the Chamber and things like that. So
We donate furniture to some local charities too. Yeah.
And I think when you are a hometown business, local, been here, 80 some years, you kind of enjoy giving back to the community that's helped you grow. I've
Absolutely.
found that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in interviewing several people, COVID has kind of wreaked havoc on the restaurant business last year. And I think that, and I'm going to ask you this, Travis, because of the furniture end of things, how did that affect the furniture business, because my understanding is it actually picked up. Like restaurant dining went down, but people were spending
Well,
their money.
At first, we were shut down for 2 months, so we had no idea what was going to happen. When they tell you to shut your business down and walk out the door, you don't even ever imagine that could happen. So, and then you don't know where's the revenue going to come from. I mean, how do you pay the bills? I mean, just like the restaurants, I'm sure.
How do you keep your employees?
Yeah, I mean, what are they, I mean, it was just total chaos with very little direction from the governor, in my opinion. But then and then we were shut down, and Lowe's and Home Depot are there selling appliances and advertising them, yet we're considered non-essential for some reason.
You walk into Home Depot or Lowe's, it's wall-to-wall people, and we weren't allowed to be open. I mean, yeah, their parking lots are jammed, and we can't be open.
Yeah.
It's just
So we didn't,
totally unfair.
yeah, we didn't agree with that. But then once we did reopen, it was just like total. I mean, we had so many people coming in the door, it was unbelievable because the demand was so pent up because they couldn't go buy furniture for 2 months, and they're sitting around their houses because they're told to stay home. So they want new furniture. Plus, a lot of them are getting unemployment, and it's
Stimulus.
It's been like that for a year now, and the manufacturers can't keep up. I mean, the supply chains are broken. Now they say the manufacturers can't get people back to work because they're making more money on unemployment. I mean, it's just one thing after another. There was a foam shortage. I mean, it's just
There was the Suez Canal.
yeah.
I know. It was like everything that could hit you. And
Yeah.
so now when you order furniture, it takes several months to even get
Yes,
it.
but we've been ordering stuff for stock, so we constantly our warehouse is jammed right now.
Mm-hmm.
But some things, if you special order, do take much longer than they used to. Yeah,
So you're on the upswing now. You're out of the ditch, and
yeah, for now.
yeah,
For
for
now,
now.
you know.
Well, hopefully for a while, for 80 more years, right?
Yeah, and the community did great. I mean, they really supported us.
Yeah, I think people came to us to buy because they realized
That was
what happened.
Yeah.
You know. So
Yeah, I think so too. When we were allowed to reopen, I mean, the support we got from the community was incredible. So
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That is-
and I think a lot of them saw what was going on with the national chain stores and started to plus all the talk of things that were being made overseas and all that stuff. And I think that buying local really came to the top of people's minds again and reminded them how important it is to support your local businesses because they're the ones that do support the community. So yeah, we were very grateful for the response we got from the local
Right.
community in that respect.
Is your furniture made in the U.S.?
a lot of it is like what we're sitting on right now is made in Tennessee.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well, guys, I'm so glad that you came to do this interview with us today, and glad to see that things are getting a little better,
Yeah,
for you.
yeah.
And we really, really appreciate all that you do for the community and what you did for Join the City. Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
If you know a person or organization impacting our city, we want to hear about it. You can contact us at 814-944-1948 or by email at stories@jointhecity.org.
Today's Platinum sponsor is Harry's Construction, whose motto is, "If you can dream it, we can create it." Recently opening Harry's Construction Kitchen and Bath Center so you, the consumer, can see examples of the variety of services provided by the team at Harry's Construction. Regardless of the project size, Harry's team approaches each project as if it is his own home. Be sure to visit Harry's Construction Kitchen and Bath Center at 114 Main Street in Bellwood. You can also visit their website to see pictures of home improvement projects over the years. Thanks again to Harry Halk and the team for supporting Joy in the City.
Made by Vogel is a father and son business that produces high-quality handmade wooden products such as cutting boards, bowls, bottle stoppers and more. Products for sale can be found on their Etsy site or in downtown Altoona at the Clay Cup. You can't go wrong buying from Made by Vogel.
We all have a story to tell. Perhaps it's a personal journey, a business venture, or overcoming an addiction. Regardless, hearing someone's experiences shape our personal perspective, providing guidance and a hope for the future. As a regular segment on this show, we share a behind-the-scenes look into a story from someone right here in our community.
Health is a very meaningful part of our life. I'm Walter Smith. I pastor Abundant Life Assembly of God here in Altoona. And it was about over 25 years ago that after I was having a few complications and some problems, I had gone to see my doctor. It was on a Friday afternoon. I remember it very, very well. He examined me. I had put some things off, as most men do. And he had a little concern in his voice, called in another associate of his, and they said that I needed to come to the hospital, Geisinger Medical Hospital in Danville, PA, on Monday morning, prepare myself for surgery because they said there was a mass. It was testicular cancer. It was escalated, and they said that it was very, very serious. So Monday morning I showed up, very nervous. Our church had prayed, only to realize that, it was serious. It devastated my wife and some of our family, but I had a good feeling that I knew that God was going to do that in my life that was vital. I went through surgery. I was involved in radiation later on. They wanted me to go through some chemotherapy, but we didn't go quite that far. But what was intriguing in the midst of all this trial of having cancer and dealing with that big C word, even being told at one point that by the head neurologist at Geisinger that perhaps if it wasn't treated that it could take my life. So I was a young man struggling with family, ministry, our obligations. But I really had a resolve, and there was just a peace that had come into my life that I knew God was in charge. It was during that time and the stay in the hospital that I really believe I understood a little more clearly why I had gone through that particular trial in my life. And many of us do. You're watching this and you join in and enjoy the city on a constant basis. And I hope that through the testimonies that you're lifted up and edified, because all of us go through situations in life and we question. Sometimes we never know the answer why, but other times we do learn. It was during my stay in the hospital that I was in a bed adjacent in the hospital room with an older gentleman that also had gone through a cancer surgery. I had to laugh because it was after about 3 days from my surgery and before I really even went into the radiation aspect of it, that he looked over at me and he says, we had learned each other's name. He said, "Walter," he says, "I understand you're a minister and you've had a number of the ministers come in and pray for you." And he says, "I'm really impressed by that," and it lifted his faith. So he asked what my dad had done and if my dad had been a minister, and I just chuckled because I said, "No, my dad was not a minister." My dad was a number of years older than my mom, but my dad had served 10 years in prison of a 25-year sentence before he ever met my mom. But in the conversation with this gentleman in our next bed, he asked, "What did your dad do?" And I told him that that time he had been a construction worker, and I said that he had served in prison for a while. And this gentleman spoke up and sat up in his bed. He says, "Well, I had been the warden Rockview State Penitentiary near State College. And I chuckled because I said, well, that's where my dad spent 10 years of that supposedly 25 years prison sentence. He got out after 10 years, but he spent 10 years of it there. And the gentleman looked at me, he says, well, so many men came through his 35-year service as the prison warden. He says, but what is your dad's name? I said, well, his name was Walter Ellsworth Smith. Just like that, prison warden laughed and he says, old Smitty. He says, your dad was part of the prison softball team. He played second base and shortstop. I said, yeah, that was my dad. And then he said he worked in the laundry at the prison. I said, yeah, that was my dad. And then tears began to flow in his eyes, and he says, I've been out of church for a long time. He had gone to a Presbyterian church, but he said, I really needed to reconnect. And he says, to hear that one of the inmates that served under him and that he was in charge of, to hear that one of the inmates had gone on to have a son become involved in the ministry just blessed his heart. We communicated a little bit after my hospital stay and a little later, only to find out that he did get plugged back into his church. And sometimes we really don't understand why we go through what we go through in life. We don't understand the trials and the tests. And at first, I did not understand why I had to go through cancer, only to be healed, went through the radiation, was sick as a dog for the first 30, 45 days. Our church at that time was so supportive of us. But then to understand that God had placed us and allowed me to share my testimony with a man who really needed to make a reconnection and a relationship with Jesus Christ. It was worth all of that. Even though there was the uncertainty, the discomfort of going through it, today I'm completely cancer-free and had been ever since I went through that radiation, which also surprised the head neurologist of Geisinger, who is of the Muslim faith. And I was able to be a testimony to him for months following my surgery and my follow-ups. So when we go through things in our life that we don't understand, got to understand that God is ordering our steps. And I just praise him today for all that he's done for me. He's a good God. So whatever you're going through, would you trust him? Don't come to a conclusion before he's brought you through the entire completion of your trial. And through it all, can we praise him for his goodness to us in sickness and in health? God bless you. Have a great day.
Kick off summer by joining faith-filled believers from all across the city for Saturate Altoona. This is a free summer worship series unifying believers throughout our community. You're invited to join worshipers every Sunday night during the month of June at Heritage Plaza, beginning at 6:30 p.m. You'll hear from 12 different faith leaders of several denominations and musicians from many churches. You don't want to miss Saturate Altoona every Sunday night in June at Heritage Plaza in downtown Altoona.
As we close out today's show, here are a few thoughts from our director, Troy Ferguson.
Don't dismiss the flippant. Sometimes we have ideas that come across our mind, and I refer to them as just a flippant idea. It's nothing that you really think about, you haven't put a lot of time into it, but you're just going about your day and you have this crazy idea, and many times we dismiss those. And my point today is to say, don't dismiss those flippant thoughts, those flippant ideas. Let me explain why. Just this week, I was working on something early in the morning, and the thought came across my idea to contact a few of my friends about an idea. And I wanted to get their input, their thought on it, and maybe how we could collaborate or even work together on something. And literally, I didn't put any more thought into it. I didn't pray about it. I didn't fast about it. This wasn't something that I was digesting in my mind on should I do this, shouldn't I? It was just a flippant thought. I talked to my assistant and I said, hey, I have this idea. What do you think about it? She said, yeah, go for it. Look into it. So I contacted a few of my friends who are creative people, and I said, here's an idea I have. What do you think? My purpose in telling you this is I'm not going to tell you the details of the conversation, but to say that the multiple people that I reached out to, every one of them said, you know what? We've been praying about something like this. God put on our heart. I was just talking to my wife about some of these types of things and wondering how we could do some of this. My journey in all of this was, it started with a thought that really didn't germinate into much until I made contact with a few friends. When I did that, God opened up some doors of collaboration, of ideas and creativity that just blossomed from that point. Matter of fact, I had long conversations with friends of mine throughout the day about these ideas, and it all started with just a flippant thought. You know, the Bible tells us in 1 Corinthians 2:11, for who knows a person's thought except for the spirit of that person, which is in him? So also, no one comprehends the thoughts of God except the Spirit of God. You know, this tells us that there's a spirit within us, and we comprehend ideas and we have thoughts that the Holy Spirit prompts in us. And those things come about because of God working in us. And sometimes we dismiss those because we haven't put a lot of thought into it. Maybe we're not adequate in a certain area. We haven't been trained in a certain concept. But when God puts a thought in your mind and He says, reach out to this person, collaborate with that person, take this idea to the next level. Don't dismiss it as a flippant thought, even if it isn't something that seems to make any sense. Take a few moments, dig into it, utilize God's Spirit within you to make those contacts, to make those first 2, 3, 4 steps, and you will be amazed. This week, I have been blown away to see how God has used this flippant thought to bring about some plans and ideas for the next year that's going to be a blessing to me, to you, and to our community. So let me wrap up with this. That thought that you had this morning, or maybe before you went to bed last night, that you thought, well, I'm not sure what to do with this. Don't just dismiss it. See what God has in store. Pray through it. Allow God to minister in and through you to utilize that gift. And who knows what dream will come about because of that. So for now, have a blessed day.
That's all the time we have today. Thanks for watching Joy in the City, True Stories. Let me encourage you to watch our other episodes of people and organizations having an impact on our community on ABC 23 at 5:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. every Sunday. You can also catch us each week on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Until then, be encouraged because God is moving in our city.